Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we are going to be looking at advanced manufacturing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, specifically in Australia.
Okay.
We're going to be zooming in on Bradfield City Centre, which is in Western Sydney,
Right.
and the potential impact of the Advanced Manufacturing Research Facility there,
Interesting.
which you'll probably hear us calling the AMRF for short.
Makes sense.
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of sources here for this one. Strategic plans, research papers, even some news articles.
Sounds comprehensive.
It is, and trust me when I say there is some really interesting stuff in here.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Lay it on me.
Okay, so for example, did you know that Australia actually ranks surprisingly low globally when it comes to using robots in manufacturing?
That's interesting. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah, it's one of the things that makes Bradfield City Centre's vision so interesting.
Okay, how so?
Well, because they're aiming to create a whole ecosystem for innovation, not just building factories,
I see. So it's about more than just the physical infrastructure.
right? It's about creating a place where cutting-edge technology is actually put to work in the real world.
Okay, so let's dig into this ecosystem idea a bit more.
Yeah, so the strategic plan for Bradfield actually reads like a blueprint for a manufacturing revolution.
Wow.
They're talking about attracting investment, creating a ton of jobs.
Ambitious.
Yeah, the whole 9 yards. They want to become a global leader in this space.
I can see why you picked this for a deep dive. This is fascinating.
Right. And at the heart of all of this is the AMRF.
Yeah, you mentioned that before, the Advanced Manufacturing Research Facility.
Right. Think of it as a giant spark plug, igniting the innovation engine of the entire city.
So it's more than just a research facility.
Way more. It's designed to be a showcase for the most advanced manufacturing technologies in the world.
That's a bold statement.
It is. So if I walked into the AMRF, what would I see? Would there be like robots making robots?
Well, you might see something pretty close to that.
Cool.
Picture AI-powered robots working side by side with humans, 3D printers crafting custom parts on demand, and every decision being driven by real-time data analytics. It's like a living, breathing demonstration of Industry 4.0 principles in action.
So it's not just about showing off the cool tech.
No, it's about giving businesses a space to experiment and figure out how to use all of these new tools.
Ah, so it's like a giant sandbox for manufacturers.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
The goal is to empower businesses to embrace these technologies and gain a competitive edge.
Right, because technology is only as good as the people who can use it.
Yeah, exactly. Which brings us to another big part of this deep dive, the workforce of the future.
Right, because all this fancy technology won't do much good if nobody knows how to operate it.
That's the key.
So we're talking about how to give people the skills they need to thrive in this new high-tech manufacturing environment, right?
Absolutely. And the AMRF is taking a really interesting approach to this.
Okay, how so?
Well, they're partnering with places like Western Sydney University and TA to create hyper-focused training programs.
So they're really tailoring the education to the specific needs of this industry.
Yeah, exactly. These programs are all geared toward the skills needed in advanced manufacturing.
So it's like a direct pipeline from the classroom to the factory floor.
Yeah, you could say that. And it's not just about training new workers either.
Oh, right, because there are a lot of people who are already working in manufacturing.
Exactly. So the AMRF is also offering upskilling programs to help those workers adapt to all of these new technologies.
That's smart. You don't want to leave anyone behind in this manufacturing revolution.
Right. It's about empowering the entire workforce to thrive in this new landscape.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Now, another thing that keeps coming up in these sources is sustainability.
Yeah, definitely. It's clear that this new wave of manufacturing, what some are calling Industry 5.0,
Industry 5.0?
yep, has a really strong focus on being green.
Okay, so I'm curious, what exactly does that mean, Industry 5.0? And how is it different from Industry 4.0, which we were just talking about?
Right. So think of it this way. Industry 4.0 was all about digitizing manufacturing,
Okay.
using technology to make factories faster, more efficient, more connected. Right. Industry 5.0 builds on that foundation, but adds in a human element.
Interesting.
It's about finding that balance between automation and human creativity.
Okay.
So it's not about robots taking over. It's about robots and humans working together
I like that.
to create a better future for everyone.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about efficiency anymore.
Yeah,
It's also about things like sustainability and social impact.
exactly.
Got it. So where does the AMRF fit into all of this talk about green manufacturing?
Well, sustainability is a core part of their vision.
Okay.
They're promoting green manufacturing practices in every aspect of the facility.
Like what?
They're using renewable energy, minimizing waste, maximizing resource recovery.
But they're really walking the walk.
Yeah, they're leading by example, showing other manufacturers that it's possible to be both innovative and environmentally responsible.
Okay, that's great. Now, before we get too carried away with all this talk about robots and green factories,
Yeah.
let's zoom out a bit and look at the big picture. Where does Australia actually stand on the global manufacturing stage?
That's a question a lot of people are asking.
Yeah.
And to be honest, Australia's got some catching up to do.
Really?
Yeah, especially when it comes to things like robot adoption. We rank surprisingly low compared to other developed countries.
So we've got some work to do.
We do. But that's where the AMRF comes in.
Okay, how so?
It's about giving Australian manufacturers a place to learn from global leaders, adopt best practices, and develop their own unique innovations.
So it's a springboard for Australian manufacturing.
Exactly. It's about propelling Australian manufacturing onto the global stage.
I like that. Now, one area where Australia seems to have a lot of potential is the electric vehicle battery market.
Oh, yeah, that's a hot topic.
Right. We've got some sources that dive into this, and it's really interesting stuff.
Definitely Australia has some serious advantages when it comes to batteries.
Like what?
Well, for starters, we've got a ton of lithium.
Right, which is essential for batteries.
Exactly. And we've got a skilled workforce and strong research capabilities.
Sounds like we're sitting on a gold mine.
Huh. Well, a lithium mine at least.
Right. But of course, there are always challenges.
Of course.
What were you thinking?
One of the things I was wondering about is our manufacturing infrastructure.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge.
Is it strong enough to support large-scale battery production?
That's one of the questions that needs to be addressed.
And then there's the competition from other countries.
Right, countries like China and South Korea are already major players in the battery market.
So how do we turn our potential into reality? What strategies can Australia use to make the most of this battery boom?
Well, the sources we've got suggest a few key strategies.
Okay, I'm all ears.
First, we need to focus on niche markets.
Niche markets.
Yeah, like high-performance batteries for electric vehicles or grid-scale batteries for storing renewable energy.
Okay, so it's about finding our sweet spot.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about focusing on areas where we can really excel rather than trying to compete head-to-head with the giants. Makes sense. What else?
The second strategy is investing in training a skilled workforce specifically for battery manufacturing.
Right, because we need people who know how to build these things.
Exactly. And that's where partnerships between industry and educational institutions are going to be really important.
So it's about making sure that the training aligns with the actual needs of the industry.
Right. And the final piece of the puzzle is attracting foreign investment.
Okay.
We need to create an environment where global battery manufacturers see Australia as a good place to do business.
So it's about making Australia an attractive destination for investment.
Exactly. And encouraging collaboration between Australian and international companies.
So creating a win-win situation.
Right. Attracting investment, creating jobs, and establishing Australia as a major player in the global battery market.
You know, one thing that keeps popping up in our sources is the importance of government support.
Yeah, that's crucial.
What kind of support does Australia's advanced manufacturing sector need from the government to really thrive?
Well, there are a lot of different things the government can do.
Okay, give me some examples.
One of the most significant is funding, and the National Reconstruction Fund, or NRF, is a great example.
The NRF. Okay.
It's a $15 billion fund that's designed to invest in areas that are crucial for Australia's future.
And advanced manufacturing is one of those areas.
Absolutely. It's right at the top of the list.
So it's like a giant pot of money specifically earmarked for boosting Australian innovation.
You could say that the NRF has the potential to be a real game changer for Australian manufacturing.
Okay, so the NRF is focused on those big picture things.
Right.
But what about smaller businesses and startups? Are there any programs out there that are designed to help them specifically?
There are. The Industry Growth Program, or IGP, is a good example.
The IGP, okay.
It focuses specifically on supporting innovative, small and medium-sized enterprises.
So it's like a helping hand for those businesses that are just starting out.
Yeah, you could say that the IGP provides funding, expert advice, and networking opportunities to help them commercialize their ideas and grow their businesses.
That's great. So we've got funding for big projects and support for startups.
Right.
But what about the overall policy landscape?
Ah, yes, policy.
What kind of policies and regulations does Australia need to really foster a thriving, advanced manufacturing sector?
That's a key question, and the sources we've been looking at really emphasize the need for policies that encourage investment in advanced manufacturing.
So what does that look like in practice?
Well, it could include things like tax incentives to make it more attractive for businesses to invest in new technologies.
Okay.
It could also mean streamlining regulations to reduce red tape
Makes sense.
and making it easier for businesses to access government funding.
So it's about sending a clear signal that Australia is serious about becoming a leader in advanced manufacturing
Exactly.
and that we're willing to create the conditions necessary for businesses to succeed here.
Right.
Now, there's one more thing I wanted to ask you about.
Okay, what's that?
The sources keep mentioning something called innovation districts.
Ah, yes, innovation districts.
Have you heard of these?
I have.
I've heard the term, but I'm not totally sure what it means.
Well, it's not just a fancy way of saying industrial park.
Okay, good to know.
Think of it as a geographically concentrated hub
Okay.
where universities, businesses, startups, and research institutions all come together.
So it's like a melting pot for innovation.
Exactly. The idea is that by clustering all of these different players together, you create a synergy
I see.
that accelerates the flow of knowledge, talent, and resources.
So it's like Silicon Valley, but for manufacturing.
It's a great analogy.
And the sources suggest that Bradfield City Center has the potential to become one of these world-class innovation districts.
It does. It's got all the right ingredients.
That's pretty ambitious.
It is, but we've already got a successful example of an innovation district right here in Sydney.
Oh, yeah, which one?
Macquarie Park.
Macquarie Park.
Okay. It's known for its focus on things like medtech pharmaceuticals, digital technologies, and telecommunications.
So it's a pretty diverse mix of industries.
It is, and it's a great example of how this cluster approach can really work.
So you're saying that Bradfield City Center could potentially replicate that success,
I think so.
but with a focus on advanced manufacturing instead.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. Now, one thing that's clear from the sources is that innovation districts don't just magically appear.
Right.
They require careful planning and a lot of effort from both the government and the private sector.
Definitely. It's a collaborative effort.
So what role does the government play in making these innovation districts successful?
Well, they need to provide the infrastructure,
Okay.
the policies, and the funding to make these districts thrive.
So it's about creating the right conditions for innovation to flourish.
Exactly.
Wow, we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have.
From the AMRF's potential to transform Australian manufacturing
Right.
to the rise of innovation districts like Bradfield and Macquarie Park.
Yeah.
And, of course, the crucial role that the government plays in supporting all of this.
It's a complex ecosystem.
It is. But I think we've laid a good foundation for understanding the key players and the big ideas.
I agree.
Now, in the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we're going to dig deeper into the specific strategies that Bradfield City Center can use to become a global hub for advanced manufacturing.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
We'll be looking at real-world examples of how other countries have done this successfully
Cool.
and exploring what lessons Australia can learn from them.
All right.
So stay tuned. We're just getting started.
I can't wait. So we're picking up where we left off, talking about those strategic moves that Bradfield City Center can use to become a global advanced manufacturing hub.
Yeah, this roadmap the sources lay out is really interesting.
It is, isn't it?
So what's the first move? What do they recommend?
International collaboration. It's all about making those connections, you know,
With who?
with the countries that are already leading the pack in advanced manufacturing.
Okay, so who are we talking about here?
Think Germany.
Okay, yeah, Industry 4.0,
Exactly. Or Japan,
robotics,
powerhouse. And of course, the U.S.
automation, aerospace.
She's got it all going on.
So it's about learning from the best right,
Yeah,
sharing knowledge, building relationships that benefit Australian manufacturers.
precisely. And I mean, these partnerships could take a lot of different forms.
Oh, like what?
Well, you could have industry-specific alliances, or we could join some global manufacturing consortia.
Okay.
Even just create opportunities for businesses and researchers to exchange knowledge.
Right, so it's about tapping into this global network.
Exactly. A network of expertise and resources.
Makes sense. But it's not just about learning from others, is it?
No, you're right.
We also need to show the world what Australia's got.
Showcase our innovation.
Right. And that brings us to strategic move number 2.
Hosting and participating in advanced manufacturing events.
Yes. I love this idea.
It's a good one.
Imagine Bradfield hosting like an annual advanced manufacturing summit.
Oh, that would be amazing. Bring together the brightest minds and the latest tech from around the world.
Right. What an opportunity to showcase Australian capability.
And attract international investment.
Right. It'd be like a global coming out party for Australian innovation.
I love it.
But it's not just about hosting these events, right?
No.
We also need to be actively involved in the ones that are already out there,
Right.
the big international trade shows.
Exactly. Like Hanover Mess.
Hanover Mess,
That's one of the biggest ones.
it is huge, massive.
So we need to be there.
We do. It gives Australian businesses that platform to show off what they can do.
Right. To a global audience.
Exactly. It's about putting Bradfield on the map.
Okay, so we've got collaboration and showcasing. What's next on the roadmap?
Infrastructure.
Ah, the foundation of it all.
You can't have a thriving advanced manufacturing sector without it.
Okay, so what kind of infrastructure are we talking about specifically?
Well, the sources envision Bradfield with these state-of-the-art smart manufacturing hubs,
Ooh, smart hubs.
equipped with the Internet of Things, IoT-enabled infrastructure,
Okay, yeah.
where factories are all interconnected and data flows seamlessly.
So it's about creating an environment that's designed for innovation,
Exactly. A place where these technologies can not only be implemented,
but also tested and refined.
exactly, and we need testing facilities as well.
Okay, so places where international manufacturers can come and try things out.
Right. Experiment with new processes, collaborate with Australian businesses and researchers.
I love this idea of creating like a playground for innovation,
It is a bit like that, isn't it?
a place where we can push those boundaries.
And new ideas can take flight.
I like that. But wouldn't we need something even bigger to really make Bradfield a global hub?
You're on the right track.
Something that brings all of this together.
The sources suggest creating a dedicated advanced manufacturing precinct within Bradfield.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Paint me a picture. What would that look like?
Okay, so imagine a zone within Bradfield.
A cluster of R&D labs, innovation spaces, export facilities,
Okay.
all specifically designed to support this type of high-tech manufacturing.
A magnet for talent, investment, cutting-edge technologies.
You got it. And when you have all of these things clustered together,
To create that critical mass of innovation,
exactly.
where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
Precisely. It's about creating an ecosystem where innovation feeds on itself.
And that drives continuous growth.
Exactly.
I like it. But we've been talking a lot about attracting global players to Bradfield.
Right.
How do we actually make Western Sydney irresistible to these international companies?
That's a great question, and the sources lay out a pretty comprehensive approach.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Well, first and foremost, it's about marketing.
Okay,
We have to showcase what Western Sydney has to offer.
sell it.
Exactly. And we need to do a really good job of branding Western Parkland City as this leader in advanced manufacturing.
Right. And who are we targeting with this marketing?
International corporations. Those companies that specialize in robotics, aerospace, additive manufacturing.
All the cool cutting-edge stuff.
No, exactly.
So we need a killer marketing campaign.
We do. Something that makes them think, hey, we need to be a part of this.
Exactly. But marketing alone is not enough, is it?
No, you also need some tangible incentives.
Right. Like what?
Well, the sources talk about tax benefits
Okay.
and grants specifically for advanced manufacturing companies.
So sweeten the deal a little bit?
Exactly. Make it financially attractive for them to choose Bradfield.
Okay. But it's not just about the money, is it?
No. You also need to provide some practical support.
Like what?
Well, the sources suggest things like subsidized access to shared facilities,
Okay.
like those smart factories and testing centers we were talking about earlier.
Right. So make it easy for businesses to get it up and running.
Exactly. Reduce those barriers to entry.
Okay. Now let's switch gears and talk about the workforce.
Okay.
We know we need a skilled workforce, but how do we actually create one?
Well, that's where Western Sydney University comes in.
Okay. They got a big role to play here.
They do. The sources actually envision the university becoming a global leader in advanced manufacturing education.
Wow, that's ambitious.
It is, but they're well positioned to do it
Okay, so how did they do that?
by developing specialized training programs.
Okay.
And they do this in partnership with top universities and technical schools from around the world.
So we're talking about creating a world-class curriculum.
Exactly. One that equips students with the skills they need to succeed in this field.
Okay. So they graduate from Western Sydney University,
And they're in high demand.
not just in Australia, but globally.
That's the goal.
I like it. But attracting local students isn't enough, is it?
No, we also need to attract international talent.
Okay, so how do we do that?
Well, the sources suggest offering incentives for engineers, roboticists, manufacturing specialists to relocate to Western Parkland City.
So create a brain game.
Exactly. Bring those bright minds from around the world to Bradfield.
Okay. But it's not just about formal education, is it?
No, you're right. We need to think about ongoing professional development as well.
Because this field is constantly evolving.
Right. So the sources suggest things like offering grants and fellowships to international researchers.
Oh, boy, areas.
Areas like AI-driven robotics, 3D printing, things like that.
So create an environment where learning never stops,
Exactly.
where professionals can constantly upskill and stay ahead of the curve.
That's what it's all about.
Okay, so we've got talent,
Right.
we've got investment,
Right.
but we also need to make sure that the innovation happening at Bradfield has a global impact.
Right. It can't just stay within our borders.
Exactly. And the sources talk about building these research and innovation networks that extend beyond Australia.
Right.
So what do those networks look like?
Well, they're all about connecting Australian researchers and businesses with their counterparts around the world.
So breaking down those silos, fostering collaboration.
Yeah. Tapping into this global pool of innovation.
I like it. So what would that look like in practice?
Well, the sources suggest things like establishing collaborative R&D centers,
Right?
partnering with global manufacturing leaders.
Okay. Are there any specific examples?
Yeah, they mention the Fraunhofer Institute in Germany
Okay.
and MIT in the US.
Those are some big names.
They are, and bringing those partnerships to Bradfield would be huge
It would accelerate the development of new technologies.
and ensure that Australian innovation has a global impact.
That's fantastic. But with all this talk about global collaboration, it makes me wonder, are there any areas where Bradfield should really focus its efforts?
That's a good question. And the sources suggest that Bradfield should focus on building specialized clusters.
Clusters, okay.
Yeah, so they'd create ecosystems around specific industries.
Okay, industries where Australia already has a competitive edge.
Exactly.
I'm really curious about this cluster idea. Can you give me some examples?
Of course. The sources highlight a few areas where Bradfield could really excel. First one is aerospace manufacturing.
Okay, makes sense with the new Western Sydney International Airport right there.
Right. It's like a natural fit.
So leverage the airport as a catalyst for growth, create a thriving aerospace ecosystem.
Exactly. So think about the companies involved in aircraft manufacturing, maintenance, repair, overhaul services.
They could all thrive in Bradfield.
They could. What other clusters come to mind?
Well, I know Australia has a lot of potential in robotics and automation.
Yes, that's another one the sources highlight. They envision Bradfield as a hub for robotics innovation.
I can see it now. A cluster of companies in Bradfield developing these cutting-edge robots, pushing the boundaries of automation, creating a global center for robotics excellence.
It's a powerful vision.
It is. Okay, what else? What other clusters are they suggesting?
Well, the third one is additive manufacturing.
Additive manufacturing.
You probably know it better as 3D printing.
Oh, 3D printing, okay. It always seems so futuristic.
I know, right? But it's already being used in so many different industries.
It is.
And it has the potential to completely revolutionize manufacturing.
Okay, how so?
Well, it allows for customized production, rapid prototyping, and the creation of complex designs that just weren't possible before.
Right. So the sources believe that Bradfield could become a leader in this space.
They do.
Uh-huh.
And that it could attract companies from a whole range of industries.
Like what?
Healthcare, construction, automotive, aerospace.
The possibilities are pretty much endless.
They are. And by focusing on these specific clusters
Bradfield can create this unique value proposition.
and attract investment and talent from around the world,
Okay, so it's about playing to our strengths.
and creating a unique identity for Bradfield on the global stage.
I like that. Now, we've been talking a lot about technology.
Yeah, it's kind of at the heart of all of this.
And the sources mention Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0 as these key paradigms that are shaping the future of manufacturing.
Right.
Can you remind me what those terms mean and how they relate to Bradfield?
Okay, so Industry 4.0 is all about digitalization, automation, data exchange. It's about using technologies like the Internet of Things, cyber-physical systems, cloud computing, artificial intelligence to create these smart factories.
So factories that are more efficient, more productive, more responsive to customer needs.
Exactly. And the sources suggest that Western Parkland City should be a pioneer in adopting these Industry 4.0 principles.
So integrate those technologies into their manufacturing operations.
Right. Embrace the digital revolution and use it to create a competitive edge.
Okay, that makes sense. But you mentioned Industry 5.0 as well.
Right.
How does that fit into all of this?
So Industry 5.0 kind of builds on the foundation of Industry 4.0,
Okay.
but it adds in this crucial human element.
Okay, so while Industry 4.0 is all about technological advancements,
Industry 5.0 recognizes that technology should serve humanity.
not replace it.
Right.
So it's about striking that balance.
Exactly. A balance between automation and human creativity.
Using technology to enhance our capabilities, not completely replace them.
Right.
So it's about creating a manufacturing sector that's not just efficient and productive, but also sustainable, resilient, and equitable.
Exactly. It's a more holistic approach.
I like that. So Bradfield's got a pretty clear roadmap for success here.
They do.
From those international collaborations to specialized clusters to embracing Industry 5.0.
Right.
But we can't forget about the role of the government in all of this.
Definitely not. Government support is crucial. And in the final part of our deep dive, we'll explore the various government initiatives that are designed to support the growth of advanced manufacturing in Australia.
Okay, so we'll look at how those initiatives can be leveraged to help Bradfield achieve its goals.
And become a global hub for innovation.
Sounds good. I'm looking forward to it. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into advanced manufacturing in Australia. We've talked about Bradfield's plans, the strategies they can use, and now it's time to really zoom in on what the government's doing.
You know what strikes me looking at all these sources? The government's got all these initiatives to support advanced manufacturing.
It's like they've got this whole toolbox.
A toolbox, yeah, filled with different tools they can use to boost innovation,
Yeah.
create jobs and strengthen the economy.
I love a good toolbox analogy.
Yeah.
So what's the most powerful tool in this toolbox?
I'd say one of the most significant tools is funding, and the National Reconstruction Fund is a perfect example.
The NRF.
Yep, it's a $15 billion fund specifically designed to invest in areas that are crucial for Australia's future. And guess what's at the top of the list?
Advanced manufacturing.
You got it. It's not just about throwing money at a problem.
Right. It's about strategic investment.
Exactly. The NRF's about supporting projects that align with those long-term economic goals. It's seed money for Australia's future as a manufacturing powerhouse.
Okay, so the NRF is focused on the big picture stuff.
Yeah.
But what about those smaller businesses and startups?
Oh, they haven't been forgotten? That's where the Industry Growth Program comes in?
The IGP.
Yep. It's all about providing support and guidance to those innovative, small and medium-sized enterprises, the ones that are really pushing the boundaries.
So it's like a mentorship program for businesses that are just starting out.
Yeah, in a way. The IGP provides funding, of course, but also expert advice and even networking opportunities.
So it helps them get their ideas off the ground.
And turn those ideas into reality and hopefully compete on a global scale.
Okay, so we've got funding for big projects and tailored support for startups. But what about the bigger picture? What about those government policies and regulations? What role do they play in all of this?
Oh, policies and regulations are so important. They're like the rules of the game, and they can either help or hinder businesses.
So are we doing a good job there? Do we have the right policies in place?
Well, the sources really highlight the need for policies that actively encourage investment in advanced manufacturing.
Okay, so give me some examples. What would those policies look like?
Well, you could have tax incentives to make it more financially attractive for businesses to invest in new technologies.
Okay, makes sense.
We could also streamline regulations to reduce all that red tape and make it easier to actually do business here.
And make it easier for businesses to access those government funds.
Exactly. It's all about sending a clear signal that Australia is serious about this.
That we want to be a leader in advanced manufacturing.
Right. And that we're willing to put our money where our mouth is.
Create the conditions for success.
Exactly.
Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the workforce. We need skilled workers, right?
Oh, absolutely. People who can keep up with all these rapid changes.
Yeah, so how does the government support that?
Well, education and training are key here. And the government's investing in a whole range of programs.
Programs designed to give Australians the skills they need for those jobs of the future.
Right. Are you familiar with the Fee-Free TAFE initiative?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
It's a great example. It's making vocational education and training more accessible to everyone.
Especially in those fields that are in high demand.
Exactly. So engineering technology, those areas that are essential for advanced manufacturing.
Okay, so fee-free TAFE. That's for people who are new to the workforce. But what about people who are already working in manufacturing?
Oh, the government's also focused on upskilling those workers.
So they don't get left behind.
Right. It's about adapting to those new technologies, staying ahead of the curve, lifelong learning.
Okay, so it's not just about learning a skill and you're done. You've got to keep learning, keep growing.
Exactly. The skills needed in advanced manufacturing are always evolving.
So we need a workforce that can adapt and embrace those new technologies.
Right, if we want to stay competitive globally.
Makes sense. Now, in addition to education and training, there's also research and development.
R&D, that's the engine that drives innovation.
It is, and it's an area where the government can really make a difference.
They can, and they are. They're funding research, so they're supporting collaboration between industry and academia.
So they're supporting that whole pipeline, from basic research to commercialization.
Right. It's all about creating the conditions for those breakthroughs to happen.
Making sure Australia is at the forefront of these new technologies that are shaping the future of manufacturing.
Exactly.
Well, I think we've done it. We've covered a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
Bradfield City Center, the strategies for success, the role of government, support all the big trends shaping the future of manufacturing.
It's been a really interesting conversation. I'm so curious to see how this all plays out.
Me too. It feels like Australia has a real chance to become a leader in this space.
I think so too. With the right vision, the right strategies, and that government support, Bradfield could really become a global hub for innovation.
Absolutely. And a huge thank you to everyone for joining us on this deep dive into the world of advanced manufacturing. If you want to learn more, be sure to check out the show notes for links to all of the sources we talked about and some other resources.
And as always, keep those innovative ideas flowing.
We'll see you next time.